everybody, and welcome back to the Broadway Jets YouTube channel. You'll know me from Twitter as NYJ Mike. I'm joined as always by the master of receipts, NYJ Matt. And Matt, today we're going to give our grades for the 2022 New York Jets draft.
And what a draft class it was. Even the night of the draft, a lot of good vibes, but we've had that before, and this one was truly different. Among, you got to argue, top three in Jets history, could be better. But from rookie year, probably the top draft the Jets have ever had. Before we go into grades, please don't forget, hit subscribe if you're new here. If you like the content on Twitter, we're going to bring it to YouTube. So, Mike, I think it's fitting to start with the best rookie in the NFL, Sauce Gardner. Without a doubt, it's an A+ grade.
The guy had one of the best rookie seasons in the history of all sports. Obviously, one of the best as a corner, defensive player in the NFL. Should win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Even more fitting and feels better that another corner went before him, Derek Stingley. So the Jets made out like bandits. I personally wanted the Jets to take Kayvon Thibodeau. Happy they didn't at this point. And when I wanted the Jets to take KT was before you thought that you can get Jermaine Johnson at 26.
Exactly.
So yeah, so Sauce, I mean, just A plus.
And you go
Yeah,
through an like all pro. Not all pro is not a Pro Bowl. He's an all pro, the best guy you can be at your position, first team all pro. And going into the year, there were a little bit of concerns of, look, we know he's gonna be really fucking good, but will there be some penalties and grabby moments that he maybe didn't get called for when he was at Cincinnati? Nope had like 3 penalties the entire year, and a lot of fans of other teams will call him DPI merchant. They'll get mad about it, but the guys plays tough football, and the fact that referees are giving him that much respect, being 22 years old that early, is a great sign for his entire career moving forward. A quote unquote down year for Sauce Gardner now is going to be like a Pro Bowl nod. Like, that is what a down year is. And every week, Mike, we would look at the schedule and say, okay, this week he has Amari Cooper. This week it's Jamar Chase. This week, and we kept saying, oh, he's due for a bad week.
yeah.
He's due for one. And it just never happened the entire year. So the fact that we can market our franchise and have a cornerstone player as cool as Sauce Gardner is just, it's a chef's kiss for that entire draft.
Can't be better off the field, says all the right things, raised the right way, doesn't drink or smoke. Not that those are bad things, but he's a clean guy and has just been what you wanted the face of your franchise to be. It can't be any better. This is the guy. And he has a Super Bowl commercial coming out. It should be fun.
Can't wait for that. Can't wait for that. All right, so A+ grade. Moving on to Garrett Wilson, the 10th pick. A lot of people thought Jermaine Johnson could have went here.
Yeah.
And then you have the argument, would it have been Drake London? Do you go Traylon Burks? People had at the time. And they went with the best player that they had on the board, Garrett Wilson. Mike, give me your Garrett Wilson grade.
How could it also not be an A plus? He's also in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year. The last time a team had the Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year were the 2017 Saints. They had Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara. So the Jets are obviously in a really good spot. This is a top of the draft. You just can't do much better. The dude had over 1,000 yards, 80 plus catches, and that's with very inconsistent quarterback play. You'd like to see what the guy will do if an Aaron Rodgers comes in or a Derek Carr. So again, I don't know what else you can give except an A plus.
I agree. I think people might go A because of only 4 touchdowns, and they were in 2 games, Chicago and the
That's very
Cleveland game.
nitpicky. Very nitpicky.
But it's nitpicky, especially because you look at the quarterback play, like you alluded to, 83 for 1,100 yards. The guy's a stud. And a big thing in training camp, which I think is overrated, are quote unquote drops, right? So if you win a 50-50 ball more often, I'm more excited about that than the occasional 1 to 2 drops. He was pretty sure-handed the entire year. And everything he did was just an electric component to the entire offense. So A+ for Garrett Wilson. Hard to argue.
Yeah, I mean, he only had that one drop. Was that in the Lions game or the Seahawks game? Maybe on a fourth down, I think it was in the Seahawks game. He kind of dropped the ball, but other than that, I don't remember him really making any big ghastly mistakes. Or very, very impressive, shifty, real true wide receiver one stuff. I mean, we can't ask for much more.
He was awesome. And now moving on to Jermaine Johnson, a guy that we couldn't believe was there. They trade up for him. Jermaine, I'm going to give my grade first.
Please.
I'm thinking he belonged in the B to B plus range. You can't expect every rookie edge guy to have, I don't know, 8, 9 sacks. And what did Jermaine end up with? 3, 3.5?
Was it 3.5?
Maybe even 2.5. But all his sacks came in the first 8 games, and you can't fault the guy. He played 34% of snaps. He
2.5.
consistently was
Yeah.
being rotated on the field. And I'm not looking at his pass rush production. The plays he made in the run game, he just always felt like he was getting in the backfield, wrapping guys at the ankles, and only giving him a half yard or a yard. So based on playing time alone and the motor he had, I'm very, very excited of what's coming next year. I think a B plus range is very fair for Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah, I would go a little lower. I would go with a B just because, you look at guys like Garrett Wilson and Sauce who obviously got a chance to play more, but they're just more productive. I thought, again, I'm encouraged by Jermaine Johnson and definitely not a negative. It was a loud 2.5 sacks. You did feel his presence. He definitely made some plays. Like you said, the Jets are very deep at this position. So, he's fighting with Carl Lawson and Bryce Huff and all these maniac pass rushers that the Jets had. So he's not playing that much. He did have maybe one of the plays of the year, which is the Josh Allen sack. He recorded a safety, so he did some stuff and he did make his presence felt. I'm happy to give him a B. And I'm very happy that the Jets picked him, especially 26. You get him for that value. If he goes 10 and then he does this, it's going to be annoying out of here. He's a disappointment when he's really not. We'll like to see him play a lion's share of the snaps before kind of saying anything negative about him. So I'm happy with what he did, and I'll give him a B.
I think B is fair. I think you could also say B minus, B plus. That range, I wouldn't argue with it. Once you start getting the A minus and then C plus territory, I think you had to really stretch to make that case. Again,
Yeah.
people look at sacks. I just thought he was more disruptive, and again, barely played D line rotation, but he just felt like a good motor guy. And then this is even hard to talk about. I don't like talking about Breece Hall because I get so sad of what could have been, and we all know that, right? So we're not going to go down memory lane. We know what happened in that Denver game.
Ugh.
But everything he gave when he was on the field, it's hard to argue it's not an AA plus. It's hard to argue.
I think it's a by far A plus. I remember watching the Broncos game. It just was like I never saw an offensive player this insane on the Jets. Maybe the one year of Brandon Marshall. You can make arguments about Curtis Martin. It's even a little bit before my time. I was like 7, 8 years old when Curtis was ending his career. Maybe a little older, 9. But Breece was just a different level, absolute stud, shoe in for offensive rookie of the year. Burst, explosiveness, stuff that you just haven't seen combined with he's a big dude. Absolutely blown away. The Jets have 3 young players in Breece, Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Vera Tucker, who are all pro type dudes who should be around for a long time. You just hope that Breece comes back normal. Anything less than an A plus is absurd to me.
Yeah, he earns it. He earns every right of it. He just played so damn hard. Looking into that game, the Pittsburgh into Miami into Green Bay, that 3-game stretch, we're like, holy shit! Not only do we have the offensive rookie of the year, this guy's gonna make a case for a top 3 running back as a rookie.
Yep.
If he doesn't get hurt in fantasy leagues, he's probably the 1-1-1-2 pick next year.
Dude, 100%. And it's like the Jets, if you would have went by any of these metrics, you look at guys grading their draft, the entire NFL draft, NFL analysts will have Sauce as number 1, Garrett Wilson in the 3-2-3 range, Aiden Hutchinson might be up there, and Breece Hall would have been that next guy. He would have a better year than Kenneth Walker, who's terrific, and what a Tariq Woolen would be the other guy. So the Jets really hit probably 3 of the top 4 guys in the entire draft, and you got to just go A plus for those 3 dudes. I don't see how you can't.
I love it. I love it. 3 picks to go. Jeremy Ruckert, lifelong Jet fan. What did Jeremy? He was active for 3 games on the year, including the Cleveland game where he had 1 drop and then we just never saw him again. And he had a catch against Miami. You can almost go NA for this one, Mike, based on what he was, active and playing. In preseason, he did have a touchdown against Philadelphia. Pretty interesting. Give me Jeremy Ruckert.
Him being inactive in 14 games in a year where the Jets didn't really have a solidified tight end three should be a knock on him. I think, just because you grade Ruckert like a C doesn't mean he doesn't have a good future, but it would be hard for me to grade him. I think it's like a C minus at this point. You just hope that, he did show some promise in week 18. Michael Nania was posting some videos of him executing some nice blocks and flying around the field. He had that catch, like you said. But, and there's games where Kenny Yeboah was playing. At the beginning of the year, you had Lawrence Cager. You figure that Rucker could have cracked the rotation. So I'm going to go with a C minus for his rookie year.
Yeah, I was thinking C or C minus, but if you want to go with that NA round, say I couldn't see enough of him, that's fine. But you're right, he wasn't injured. He was just needing to learn how to play the NFL game, and he had some cool blocks like Nania posted that you referenced. So all is well in the Jeremy Ruckert front. We're not giving up on him. And guess what? You can have A plus for 7 picks. So people are gonna be like, "Oh, Joe Douglas drafted Jeremy Ruckert." So all right, they wanted to get a young tight end after they signed 2 veteran guys in free agency. So hopefully he can emerge and be an everyday contributor
Yeah,
next
who's
year.
next? Our boy Michael Clemens.
No, not yet. Max Mitchell is
Oh, I forgot
before
he's
Clemens. Max Mitchell, you assume with the amount of depth on the offensive line that he probably wouldn't have had any time, barring significant injuries. And then that's exactly what happened going in to the Pittsburgh game, I believe, was the first time Max Mitchell was out there. Or did he get thrown in a little bit earlier in that Cincinnati game?
Yeah, I don't even remember, but he was impressive. You don't usually think of a fourth round guy out of Louisiana Tech, not the biggest dude in the world, swing kind of dude. You throw him in at right tackle, and he played well. Um, and what for a fourth round pick, again, a rookie to come in and do that when you have 6 tackles go down, very impressive. There was a time when he came back in after he came back from his original injury, and he struggled a little bit, and then he went out for the season. But very promising rookie year. You figure you have at least a good depth piece. Something it's like what the Jets always wish they had with Chuma Edoga is Max Mitchell. Now at least that could be the floor. Maybe he's a solid player who could be a starter at some point.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. If you're arguing Max Mitchell with your uncle who's a Jets fan who's talking about Max Mitchell needs to play, whatever. When you had Chuma Adoga come in, he would either commit a penalty or get his quarterback killed. I'm very confident Max Mitchell can come in and be a serviceable backup. I don't know if I love the idea of that Jets going into 2023 or another year with him being the plug-in starter, but if he plays well enough and deserves it, perfectly fine with it. So, Mike, give me your Max Mitchell grade.
I think it's a B, and it has a chance for a lot more if he becomes a real starting guy. In the fourth round. That's how you build your franchise. And for the record, Max Mitchell did start the first 3 games of the year for the Jets. Then got hurt in the Steeler game. I think is what you were thinking
Oh,
of.
yes, you're right.
And
Yep.
then he came back against the Bears and then got hurt again in the
Hurt,
Vikings
hurt
game.
in the Steeler game. Yep.
Hurt in the Steeler game. Yeah. What about you? What do you have for Mitchell?
I had a B. I had a straight B. It's exactly what I think it will be when we tweet out the graphic after. I think a lot of people are going to have him as a B. Unfortunate way for his year to end, with the non-football injury, related, what is it, NFRI, where you can't activate him back.
Free.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, hey, the good news is he should be back next year. And then rounding out the final draft pick, the scariest man in America, Michael Clemens, who spells his name not the right way.
Yeah, dude.
McKeel.
What an insane, crazy rookie year he had in terms of some of his PFF ratings. I think he was the #1 rated run defender in the league. And how do you block that guy? He's a psychopath. He had great quotes, just menacing dude. Imagine asking that guy a question on the beat. Big Michael Clemens fan. I think he's a shoe-in as a starter at some point down the line, if not next year. The only problem is where you're going to play him. It's like because he's not really a defensive tackle. He profiles as an end. Maybe if a JFM, the Jets want to move him or restructure or what, but you could see Clemens starting games. He also murdered Trevor Lawrence this year. Some very, very interesting young player.
Yeah, you can definitely put more weight on and maybe transition him to more of that D tackle role. Or he doesn't he's like he's weird like measurables, it feels like. He's like massive, but also at the same time, like kind of doesn't look like he's a trying to think of a good comparison here. He's an interesting guy who blocks the punt, gets after the quarterback, elite in the run defending game, and can also like just throw people off. Not a guy I would want to block. And he's got an NFL body coming out of college. Imagine he gets 1 to 2 more years of NFL training under him. He's gonna be a monster, like a literal monster. And he also got carted off twice. And
in
then
the
like
same game.
in the same game and then played, and which is hilarious. So Michael Clemens, I'm between two grades. I'm between a B plus and an A minus. Mike, what do you think?
I think it's a B plus for now, just for the fact again, the actual production, 2.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. He had the block punt. It was good. He was good, but to give him an A minus would be more about the where he was drafted, and it's definitely a good value pick.
The run defense is where that would come in. If you're like he's just that good against the run.
Yeah, run defense is terrific, but I need a little more production before I'm going to throw out an A. Like if Garrett Wilson's an A plus, I don't think he's an A minus.
Fair point. Fair point. So if we were to run it down, I think we agree. Sauce Gardner A plus. Can't argue.
Yes.
Garrett Wilson A plus. I could
A
hear
plus.
the argument for an A. I could hear it if there's talking about touchdowns.
You're the number one receiver, or him or Chris Olave. You're the top 3 to 5th best player in the draft. You're an A plus.
So Broadway Jets is going to give Sauce an A plus, Garrett Wilson A plus, Jermaine Johnson. I think we're landing at a B. Is that or a B plus?
I gave him a B minus, or what did I give him? Did I give him a B minus? I think I
You give
did.
him a B. You give him a B, and you said we
Really?
could go either way. Yeah,
Fine, we can give him a B.
we give him a B. Bruce Hall A plus, home run hitter. Jeremy
Yes.
Rucker going around C minus. Not again about like how he is going to be as a player, but just everything considered. Max Mitchell a B, and Michael Clemens likely going to be a B plus range guy.
Yeah, I think it's a B plus.
Pretty good, man.
Dude. Well, I mean, this is a terrific draft, and it's just if Mitchell and Clemens turn into starting type players in the league, this is a maybe the best draft in team history kind of thing, which is what people were saying right after it. You have the 2000 draft is very famous, where you had 3 first rounders, and you took, or they have 4 firsts. They took
Yeah.
Chad and fucking Sean Ellis and Anthony Beck, and they also got Lavernius Coles in that draft, and John Abraham. That's a sick draft. You have the Nick Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson years, and you get Revis in 07 as well. There's some good ones, but man, like to get the potential offensive and defensive rookie of the year, meanwhile your corner's an all pro, is just
It's ridiculous. It's insane. Well, the biggest thing too, we'll talk about it more in the offseason, is you just want to avoid the sophomore slump that after 2020, we loved the draft class. They had a big step back. 2021, we loved it. Step back.
Both years.
Let's keep this momentum going forward.
But none of these guys, it's like Mims or Elijah Moore were not as good as Garrett Wilson in his rookie.
Clearly,
so
right? Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And we're gonna tweet out the graphic again. If you made this far, hit subscribe, hit like. Let's get after it. Mike, any parting words for the boys? And I can say for the boys because 100% of our audience for YouTube analytics is guys. It says still.
God,
it just proves my girlfriend has never watched an episode or a video because she would have came up on the YouTube analytics.
Very supportive of her. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
All right, Mike.
That's the last. Yeah, like terrific draft class by Joe. The Jets are primed for years and years of success.
I love it. All right, Mike. I'll talk to you soon. We'll be back again later on this week, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, buddy.